I wish I knew how to quit you.
Then why don't you?
This is Codependent Content, a podcast where my partner and I discuss the TV shows, movies, and video games in which we've formed an unhealthy relationship. My name is Mattias, and my co-host is Shannon Riley. Join us each week as we try to make sense of the media we continually give our hearts against our better judgment, and commiserate with us as we struggle and fail to let go of the characters, stories, and worlds that we are entangled with. Because just when we think we're done with content, it draws us back in. Welcome back, Shannon.
Woo!
Codependent Content is back. We took almost 3 weeks off, technically, whenever you think about it, because I'm probably like only 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It feels like a long time.
It does.
You went to Florida. I'm sure that was an amazing, amazing experience in the land of Florida. The bestest of experiences for a person from California going all the way across to
Florida.
that place.
No, it was nice. I got to visit my mom, and that part of it was very nice. But I'm happy to be back.
Yeah. So we decided to one. Not only did we not have an episode to talk about with Yellowjackets, but we didn't want to fill the space because you were gone and we weren't sure like how things were going to work out, what we were going to watch.
Right.
And it just so happened your flight was canceled and delayed anyway.
Yeah.
So like recording we would have promised something and not delivered. So we just decided take 2 weeks off, make it work. That's what's happening.
It was a good call.
So we have a lot to maybe catch up on. Let's talk about a little bit about what else we are watching, Shannon.
Okay.
Succession and Barry, I think, are going super, super strong. I'm loving both of these shows. Barry especially is just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just everything about it is hitting on all cylinders. I don't know what they wanted when they started this show, but it has become like the best look at entertainment, acting, trauma, codependency, all these things. And then the darkness, we talk about darkness all the time, but I love how it represents mental health struggles because it represents them not as like gimmicky or tropey, but very like realistic, especially when a bad guy isn't just a empathetic, oh, but he's doing it for the good intentions or whatever. He'll do something and you're like, he really is screwed up. He needs help. Like, yeah, in that way.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I love that we're seeing those things in the fallout.
Yeah. Barry's one of those shows, I think you're the one that got me hooked on it harder than I was, but it's one of those shows that I started thinking like, really don't know what this is about or what I'm getting myself into. And after the first couple episodes, I remember being like, yeah, okay, it's a show. And then 4 seasons later, I cried after this episode.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, the acting is incredible.
Well, the last episode was so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So last week, I don't remember the episode names, but there's a big time jump. I hope that's not a spoiler, but there's like a little bit of a time jump in between episode the 2 weeks ago and then the last week, yesterday.
Right.
Yesterday's episode. So that I believe the one before the time jump is so heartbreaking because the best character, this is a Jesse Pinkman situation. I believe I think it's Michael Kerrigan. I can't remember. Anthony Kerrigan. I can't remember his first name.
One of the Kerrigans.
Who plays NoHo Hank was originally a one-off for the first season.
Oh, what?
Yeah, and they, I believe, just decided to keep him on. They loved his character so much.
Because he's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and he has by far the best turn and character relationship that we've seen in this show.
Yeah.
I think Bill Hader and as
Barry
and then Sally is a very, very good relationship. But Hank and Cristobal what happens in their relationship is just so
Yeah.
moving in so
Yeah.
many different ways. And I love it. I love how it's so surreal how they represent it. And I just, but I can't get over that kind of like humor, you know, where it's like a realistic situation in a very heightened circumstance that's
Right.
never going to happen to anyone, but they make it feel very real. It's like, oh, this is an argument
It's reasonable.
that's happened in a relationship before.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but this one happens to be over, you know, crime lord stuff, you know.
and not who did or did not do the dishes.
Yeah. Very much so. And then Succession is continuing to just
Floor
be the show of the moment, I suppose.
Succession is so damn good. Shiv is one of my favorite characters.
If you're
ever.
an acting person and you're not mining Succession for scenes,
Yeah.
then you're wrong. Like
You're
if you're
missing
not
out.
trying to do even the simple ones.
Absolutely.
You know, I think the best thing about it is like I have no idea what they're talking about half the time.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with what they're talking about. It's you get it through context of how things like what Kendall's trying to do and what moves they're trying to make and the goal and the obstacles that they're trying to overcome within a scene.
Yeah.
It's just great. I love that.
Yeah.
Very, I guess like Aaron Sorkin's the same way in his writing, you know? And I just feel like Jeremy Strong is doing some amazing writing. Well, I don't know who's actually
Doing the writing.
I mean, I know the showrunner is obviously doing some writing, but
Right.
you know, like however they managed to do,
Absolutely.
you know, the writers' room is doing an amazing job, I should say. Speaking of writers, this is something I want to talk about. Great segue, Mattias. That was perfect. I wish I had planned it. We need to talk a little bit about the Writers Guild of America strike right now that is happening. We haven't seen a strike quite like this since 2007 when the Writers Guild went on strike, and it lasted for 100 days. And you may be thinking to yourself, if you're a normal person that watches content on these streaming networks or whatever, like, how does this really affect us? You know? So I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of like why the writers are striking. Basically, they want the money that they're owed. The demands are not that unreasonable. And when I say demand, it's just basically saying we still want to be considered career writers, not gig workers.
Right.
Which they're not, you know, but
Right.
the way that the contracts are set up, the way that streaming is done, they're set up as gig workers.
Right.
And we're like, no, we don't want that. We want the revenue that should be promised. Like writing is a big part of the
Yes.
movie making and the TV show making process, right? So the strike last time came at a different time, right? Streaming wasn't as huge, though it was still growing. And we were still reliant on movies and network television. So that's why this specific strike is about streaming. And whereas last time you did see a big effect and consequence on the content because we were looking at movies and network television that were being written in the moment. Things were still being shot and still franchises were being made and movies still needed to come out. With like when the businesses are relying on the blockbusters coming out, you need to still write those and shoot those for next year to come out. And so that 100 days, that's a big chunk of time for writers to not be doing their work. While these writers are striking, they're not allowed to do anything else. They voted for this. They decided we're not going to go to work. We're not going to do any writing. We're not going to do anything that involves writing. It might not even be pen to paper. They can't even consult on changes in the script or how an actor should interpret something. They cannot do that because that involves, in essence, writing, right? So it feels different only because in this age of streaming, you can just stop some shows, put them on pause because do they have to come out? No. Can you wait? Yes. Depends on the networks and the studios and how they want to approach it and whether or not they trust the Writers Guild, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. It may be clear that I support the writer's strike as someone who wants to be a writer I love that a union is fighting for their people. And I love that it can be really, really impactful because I feel like this kind of thing should happen throughout the industry, especially like in the VFX industry, any place where people are making a whole lot of money. And we have seen in this time of inflation and the economy, not just in the film industry, the people at top are making a lot of money. And the people at the bottom are not growing in that same trajectory.
Right.
And so this is good for everyone, right? Support the writer's strike. Love it. Here's why I'm bringing it up. You should keep an eye on it because this will affect the shows that we're watching. You told me, Shannon, I believe you mentioned an article where Yellowjackets is on pause.
Yeah.
So season 3, I believe, would have been being shot or getting geared up to shot.
Just started shooting.
They might have been doing pre-production or whatever. They have paused Yellowjackets season 3. And as we continue to talk about Yellowjackets, it's of note that this could be the last season that we talk about Yellowjackets. I'm not saying that Yellowjackets is going to get canceled, but season 3, if they continue production and if the writer's strike goes on as long as it did last time or longer, which it might, unfortunately, we might not have anything after season 3. Season 3 is probably going to be bad.
Right.
And I say that also as a person who like just notices that the writing on this show is not technically my favorite. I do think I like the showrunners and what they're doing. But there's certain episodes, as we've talked about, where I'm like, this is being strung out a little bit, you know? And if it's already with any mystery box show, if you do not have a tight writer's room that knows what they want to do and all those kind of things, that show's screwed.
It falls apart.
And I feel like that could potentially happen if they continue production. And that would make us at least not want to cover it.
Right.
You know? So this is it, guys. This could be it, is what I'm saying. It's very interesting. You should pay attention.
Yep.
Severance has halted production.
Okay.
Not continuing right now until possibly to see how the writer's strike works out. That's great because we want Severance to work out. I feel like anyone who halts is in support of the writer's strike or is trying to. But again, some of these shows cannot stop. Some of these shows are too big to stop because if they stop, people lose money. Everyone loses money.
Right.
2 shows that are not stopping, huge shows that we are probably planning on talking about. We haven't talked about yet because we haven't started the podcast when we were talking about the first seasons. House of the Dragon.
Really?
And Rings of Power.
Oh.
2 very fantasy heavy shows where the showrunners are very, very integral to the production, are, as of this morning I saw, were continuing to move forward without their showrunners. In the case of House of the Dragon, I believe Ryan Condal, who is the showrunner, is still doing producer duties, which is showrunner duties, which is he can do some things, but there are things, like I said, he cannot write, he cannot rewrite, he cannot give interpretations on anything.
Right.
He can only do the producer stuff, you know, which is all logistical, all scheduling, all whatever, right? And Ryan Condal's the one that brought House of the Dragon alive. You know, him and Miguel Sapochnik. Miguel left after season 1. He helped with season 1 and he left. Miguel's the director behind the Homecoming episode, or I forget the names, and then the Battles of the Bastards. He's done all those big battle ones, and then he helped showrun the first season of House of the Dragon. He was already gone. He was already planning on not coming back, but now there's Miguel Sapochnik, who is the bigger creative force behind that show, is now not able to do any sort of writing or do anything in that sense.
Right.
He can only just basically be a guy in a chair, you know?
Right.
So that is not good.
Yeah.
And then Rings of Power, which I think, as much as we loved Rings of Power, I think it had a mixed kind of reception. And as big and as bold as it is, the two showrunners who brought it to life, I believe, are not doing anything. They're not even showrunning. They're not even, because they can't. There's nothing they can do. And so this show, which is already the biggest budgeted thing Amazon's ever done, is going to probably take a huge hit.
Yeah.
Because what happens when writers don't show up and they need rewrites or do whatever? Either they film something where the actors don't believe in it, don't know, or actors write their own shit. You have no one who can interpret anything on a show where it's about like elves and languages and stuff like that. You cannot translate, interpret anything in a way that you would want to and to get it correct, right? As far as I can tell, like you would not be able to do those things. It's going to be, and you're going to bring in writers who are not part of the guild who should not be working, but technically will have to try and fill in gaps or answer questions and maybe even do episodes and arcs that were not originally planned just to fill up space.
Yeah.
So those are just 4 shows, again, that could be affected and are being affected already by the Writers Guild that I feel like we were already planning on talking about. I know we've talked about this a lot, but again, these are things, if you were not aware about what's going on with the writer strikes or how it affects you, it's not going to affect you now. It's going to start affecting you. Yeah. And it's going to start affecting the things that you love. If you love watching content like we do, you know, we might be in for a bad time for like a lot of the things that we love to watch. And so I think everyone else who is like us and enjoys this podcast will see it trickle down the line and should also be paying attention to it. Show your support if you can. Yeah. Right now, there's not much you can do to show support. I mean, a lot of people have asked, what do we do? If we're not part of the Writers Guild, if we're not in LA, if we can't jump into the picket lines with them, all those kinds of things, what do we do? Do we cancel our subscription services? I've seen some people say maybe cancel one and let people know, right? That why are you canceling? Because it's writer strike, right? You can do that. If you feel like Amazon is screwing up the Lord of the Rings show, cancel Amazon and tell them why. Like, they should not be moving forward. They need to go to the table. Right. I don't know if Amazon is specific, but whatever the guild is that's supposed to go to the table with them. Other people are saying, like, you don't need to cancel anything just yet, but show your support. I don't. It's, you know, you can donate things, I guess, if you want somehow. I don't know. I mean, it's going to affect a lot of people. I feel like the film industry is still America's biggest export, and America's it's going to be a future-proof industry moving forward in terms of like America. Like, it's never going to go away. We're always going to have media. We're always going to have content. We're always going to have movies and television shows. And I think anyone who wants to be involved, loves the benefits of it, like you'll see. If you don't know what bad writing is, look up the stuff from like the last time we had a writer strike, and you'll see just how important it is. You know, like to the content that you want to enjoy and the stuff. You know, we're always asking for good movies, not just the mediocre stuff. Though sometimes we can be okay with that too. I don't know. So yeah, sorry, I talked a lot.
No, I think there's. I'm trying to keep up with it, but you know more about it than I do because, again, you write, you want to be in the guild. So I feel like I like getting the 411 from you. I would like to backtrack and talk more about some of the fun things we've been watching, because I would be amiss if we didn't mention Jury Duty.
Oh, sure. Good. Y'all,
this show, Jury Duty, is...
also on Amazon.
It's also on Amazon.
If you would have Jury Duty or Rings of Power, I'm sorry, not to interrupt. When the last writer strike happened, we had a boom in reality television. So even though I asked that question, which one would you rather have? That is what typically happens, because when you don't need writers and you just do reality television. Yeah. So maybe more Jury Duty on the way. Who knows?
Okay. Well, so anyway, so Jury Duty is fake. None of it is real, but one person isn't in on the joke. So I already forget his name.
Ronald.
This sweet angel baby of a man thinks that he's like part of a documentary or something, chronicling jury duty and what like the average American goes through while they're on jury duty. But everyone else in the show is a paid actor that's in on the gig. And it was a wild ride from start to finish. We had our boy got involved. Your fave.
James Marsden.
And he was a blast and a half and also just deranged a little bit. And yeah, if you want something that's shot like The Office, but kind of tickles your sense of Truman Show, Jury Duty is a great combination
This
of
is
that.
a show that could have been The Office.
Yes.
But I also don't think works if there isn't a person that isn't in on the joke. Like
Right.
that's where it all kind of like you need that element of it. Because I don't think it's quite as funny as like something like The Office or Written or whatever, but the fact that the actors are very good at staying within their characters and there are things that were written for them to kind of like, go along lines of stuff. But yeah, I think it's hilarious. And then James Marsden shtick, everything about that is just pure gold.
Well,
Acting wise, perfect. The Lost Pine script he's supposed to be reading and auditioning for, it's pure
crazy. It's so
gold. But
funny.
the guy that they found for this, perfect. There are just things I don't know how you get away with so many of the things without anyone figuring it out. And the fact that one, he didn't have a clue. And then two, managed to like play along with everyone's deal, not even understanding like what was going on. Anyway, so it's fun.
Yeah, he's so kind. I don't know if I just sold it, but if you ever just throw something on in the background, it will suck you right in. So we watched that. We saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 last night. How'd you feel about the last installment of Guardians?
I need to think about it
Okay.
a little bit more. I honestly, I loved it. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I think as a franchise fits on its own outside of the Marvel universe, and I love that. Like, it's just good sci-fi, and I think that's what James Gunn wanted to go out and do. And then this one, I loved it, but also kind of doesn't like close off everything I wish it did.
Sure.
It felt like a good installment. If your favorite character is Rocket Raccoon, then this is the movie for you. This is the Guardians of the Galaxy movie for you. And then I felt like the other things I wish it felt like a huge it wasn't this, but part of it can be a huge side quest.
Right.
Like a side adventure.
Yeah, I get it.
And I kind of wish that it didn't feel like all the best adventures with this group happened in between the movies that we never get to see.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just that little bit of, it's not a bad film, in my opinion. I think it does a good job, but part of me is like, this is such a fun group, but we're missing things that we're not seeing like all the time because there's so many huge time. I saw someone on Twitter, I think maybe say that this is like 10 years after the second movie in timeline.
Oh.
I mean, we're thinking about like, not only like did the Thanos stuff happen in between,
Right.
but a bunch of other stuff. And then there's like I think a gap afterwards. I don't know. So yeah, so we did miss 10 years of them being the Guardians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They I had a blast and a half. I also cried like 7 or 8 times. Just so much fun. And I'm realizing I do really, really enjoy James Gunn, which I knew after Peacemaker, but cried a lot, enjoyed a lot. What's the other thing we've been watching? Oh, another like kind of reality TV thing, Couples Therapy. I really love that show because it's just people talking about their feelings for 8 episodes. And y'all know how I love to talk about people's feelings. But that's also, well, we're watching it on Prime, but it's a Showtime show, yeah?
It's Showtime, yeah.
It's Showtime. So it's another interesting one. Ted Lasso was really thoughtful this week. We got to tackle Keely's leaked video.
Yeah, I feel like after this episode, I need to go back and re-look at some stuff. I haven't had any time, but a lot of people I saw were tweeting about how like Ted Lasso kind of have lost its way. And it became this prestige TV drama as opposed to what it started off as, which is a fun-loving. And it's like, I watched this episode and I didn't feel any of that. Like, I felt like, no, it is still the same show that I fell in love with.
Yeah.
I don't understand what other people were saying, so I'm kind of confused on where that, criticism was coming from.
Yeah.
Because to me, I loved it. I loved the last week's episode.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
And I think, Ted Lasso is still a fun, warm, wholesome bit of content. And that can come in even with different storylines, like with what Keely was dealing with. I wouldn't say that the episode lost any of its like joy or love. It's just tackling other things besides like losing to a football team or like winning, So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear more about that too. Send me those tweets.
Nate's got a girlfriend.
And Nate has a girlfriend. Yeah.
And he's so excited to share.
Oh my goodness. Nate has a girlfriend, which is super cute. I totally forgot. And they made Jamie Tart a lot more likable. And season 1, Shannon would not have expected to come out of every episode just with a Jamie Tart appreciation moment.
And that actor has become so... I want to see him in other stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and I just want to see him in... For some reason, I feel like I want to see him in like a Star Wars, because they always get Brits to play like Star Wars characters. And I'm like, I want to see him in like something, because this is down to a soccer player, or whatever. I was like, I want to see him in something like high concept, like something sci-fi, because he's just, I feel like now I've seen like a little bit of range from him. And I'm like, man, that he's got so much charisma that like, I think he would do super well in like any big franchise. Maybe I just want like the people I feel like I love, I just want to see them get into the bigger ones so that they can excel and be successful and be household names, you know? And unfortunately you have to do big budget franchises to kind of become a household name, and I think he should be. Yeah. You heard it here first, guys. Get Jamie Tart onto Star Wars. Whatever his name is, because we don't know.
Yeah, we should know his... we should look up the actor name.
Good job, Shannon.
We're like, wow, we love that guy. What's his name? I don't fucking know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what we've been watching. This is, again, Codependent Content. We are a spoiler-filled podcast. This week, we are talking about Yellowjackets, Season 2, Episode 6. Key? Qui? Qui?
Key?
We're saying the episode title. If you're not sure, it's...
I think it's Key. I think it's a hard Q.
Key. Not sure what that... Because I didn't look it up. I'm not sure what
I didn't either.
But we are talking about Key, and we are going to be spoiling things from the get-go. So if you haven't seen the episode, now's your time to check out. Go watch it and come back if you're still catching up, and to not get spoiled. And then maybe show back up later and join us for the conversation. And now we're going to do it right now. All
right, awesome. I love that intro. So like I was saying a little earlier, I think with this episode specifically, I would like to get all of the present day timeline out of the way, and then we'll talk about what makes up half this episode with the younger iterations of each character. Is that cool?
Sure.
Cool.
Because if I can give my general thoughts, Shannon, nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened, but one thing happened.
One thing did happen.
And that one thing was pretty major, I'd say, and answers a few of the questions that people have had since the beginning of the season. At least one question. But everything else, pretty much absolutely nothing happened.
Right.
Outside of anything involving Shauna.
Right. Absolutely.
So if you love that, if you love Melanie Linsky and anything involving Shauna's character, past or present, then great. You are good episode.
You're going to like this episode a lot. Yeah.
But I am so disappointed. And I know, again, we complained about the writer's strike and possibly this getting like, halted for season 3, and who knows what's going to happen there. This is like, why with this episode, I was like, how are y'all writing? Are y'all even planning anything? Like, what is going on? I'm sorry. I don't want to be too harsh on the stuff that we are supposed to love, but I'm what was this?
Well, I have two things to say. They're not in any particular order. The first is a comment off of what you just said. And the actor who plays Javi just did an interview with Variety where he talks about how bonkers the finale is and how it really sets up what they have planned for season 3. And watching this episode, I'm like, what could you possibly have planned right now? Because I'm not seeing anything. And my more gentle complaint through most of these episodes has been, I feel that we just keep table setting for something big. And I think that something big has been all of our adult characters are back together now. And I feel like that's when they can really start to cook. But every episode, it's like we spend time with these characters and we can dig into the little moments that we have with them. But ultimately, it's just like taking 5 minutes per person and pushing them closer to all getting to the compound. And that's been really lackluster for me. Whereas when we are in the 96 timeline, there's so much meat there and there's so much happening that it's almost like, why wouldn't I just watch this timeline?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I feel like the reason I love season 1 so much and the reason I thought this was going to be interesting to talk about is because what's happening in the wilderness is the more interesting thing. And I said this at the beginning of the season. I was like, in our present timeline, we got rid of whatever the conflict it was of season 1. So now we're having to set up a whole new conflict and we're doing a whole lot of like setup because they don't know what they're doing in the present timeline.
Right.
Like, or we don't know what they're doing like, what is this all leading to? We don't fucking know.
Right.
At least like we're in season 1, 96, we got the premise. Crash landing, great. We understand. Oh, now we're seeing them in the future. Who have they become? Great. So now we're kind of interested in just in general.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there's a whole blackmail plot. And that is like the, that maybe comes a little bit later, probably. But I remember it being like a big part of the present day timeline. This is why they were all together, why we are revisiting them at this time. And now that reason is lost. Right. And so like the more interesting thing has always been like, how do they get out? What happens in the wilderness, you know, like how do they change and grow and things like that? When we focus so much on that in the first season, it was very interesting because you're putting yourself again in those kind of situations. Same thing that we do when we watch zombie films, you know, like this person's kind of like me. Will I get the traits that they do? You know, like do they do things the way that I would do them? You know, do we see how their dynamic works out and like how they change and who they become differently than they were when they went into the situation? You know, it's fun to think about and it's fun to watch. This isn't like the same with the present day timeline. Yeah. And even in the present day timeline, so much of their character development comes from hearing them say like, we did terrible things. We did this. We did this. They even reference the wilderness with like reverence. And yeah, it just makes me feel like so much of the energy is just into that 96 timeline that even though I love Taissa and Van young and I love their relationship, like the adult versions of them, I'm not as invested in. I think the only, like the 3 strongest ones right now are the ones we've spent more time with and who have their own stake in the future, which is Shauna, undeniably, Misty, because she's insane, and maybe like whatever's happening with Nat and Lottie. But yeah, so I'm hoping that since now our lead cast is together as adults, that in our last, 3 episodes of the season, we finally get to care about present day cast and not just 96 cast. Yeah. No shade, obviously, no shade. But well, let's start. You said your bit. I ultimately liked this episode. And the reason I like the episode is because of how thoughtfully they handle the subject matter that they deal with in the 96 timeline. And we will get to that near the end of this. So if you want more of the lighter podcast, that's going to happen now. And then we'll really dive into what happens. But I thought it was really high integrity and very thoughtfully approached. And I think that left an overall good taste in my mouth because 96 cast slays. And that's my minute take. Great.
Well, let's hop right in. The person I have the least amount of notes for, again, this week is Lottie.
But she's not really seen until the end of the episode, right?
The only scene we get with her is her talking to another psychiatrist who we don't even see this time.
She's not real. That
psychiatrist does not exist.
Is not real. Because every time she's talking, and again, she gives the exact same information we already had before. Mm-hmm. So I don't exactly know why that scene. Was there something there that I missed that I don't recall? That yet we know she's having visions and she wants to stop them. We don't get any new.
Yeah, I don't think she gave me
information
anything else.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that leads me to believe that psychiatrist is not real.
Absolutely. And that's that on Lottie. So moving on.
Well, she shows up later and she has a nice little moment. Oh, and like we do know that. Oh, well, I guess it's past stuff. Like we do see a little bit more in past.
Yeah. But no,
whatever.
so yeah, we're going to talk about present day. Present day Lottie only showed up in the one scene basically and right at the very end. So yeah, so that's
she was there in our hearts. Shannon.
She's there
the
in my
whole
soul.
time.
All right, do you want to do Nat or Misty?
Who had? I don't know. Go with whatever you want.
Okay, they all just kind of have. Let's do Misty. Misty's kind of fun. So, I love that Misty's so adamantly paying attention in health class. I think where she's seated in the health class makes sense for her character. I think the fact that she's got like rapt attention and she's asking questions, I think fits her character perfectly. And can I help you, kitty cat? Okay. And I like that we see that a little later as well. But with adult Misty, our first...
Well, we also see that she wasn't... I feel like to me, she wasn't paying as much attention as we thought she was.
Oh, is that what you got out of it?
Well, I mean, she's if only for the fact that, yeah, I mean, they look to her because like there's that, like you said, visual of her, like she paid attention in class and all this kind of stuff. So they keep looking to her. Right. Yeah. And she's frozen. And when she's doing things, it's like, yeah, she does technically help, but does she actually know what she's doing?
Right.
You know,
we'll save that. We can circle back on that one. But when we see present day Misty, she's emptying the contents of her bag into the bowl to bequeath to Mr. Purple Man. And I paused it because I wanted to see what I could pick up. And I know I'm missing things. But among them, we have brass knuckles.
Sure.
Binoculars. The syringe that she used to fucking dose the cigarette.
Wait, really? She has the murder weapon on her
She
still?
has the syringe and a bottle. Or if it's not the syringe, she just carries that around in her purse.
That's amazing.
Like maybe it's a new syringe and a new bottle of whatever.
Right.
But that's wild. A bedazzled parrot keychain, which is adorably on brand. A wallet, some sort of feather, her name tag from her workplace.
She has a bird, so could it be a feather from a bird?
It could, yeah. I think it was like black or gray, and she's got, a gray macaw or whatever?
Yeah, because I know birds, just like you, Shannon. So I'll name a bird.
Okay, go ahead.
Turkey.
God damn it.
Blue-footed booby is a bird.
The fuck up.
I don't know what that is.
I think I could be just talking out of my ass right now, but I think she has the gray macaw, and that's really funny that she carries a fucking feather from her bird around in her
Brennan
purse.
Lee Mulligan when you need him?
We're gonna make this a clip. We're gonna tag Brennan Lee Mulligan, and he's gonna pwn us for what bird that is. I'm excited about it already.
Look for a clip with that damn bird now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot when she's drugging the assistant. That parrot's in the back. Anyway, whatever, it's fine. And that's, did I already say a wallet, some sort of feather, and like some sort of lotion. So she's got a couple normal items and a couple #Misty items in her.
She's ready to defend herself or kill if need be. It seems like, according to you, if that syringe and bottle is to be believed.
Yeah. And immediately after we see that bowl, we discover that Walter is still sending her texts, and that makes my heart leap with joy. I didn't think we would lose Elijah Wood, but there was a little part of me that was like, oh no, what if Walter doesn't come back?
Oh, he's coming back.
Oh, he's coming back.
We haven't seen the last of Walter because he's after Misty. We know it.
And I am kind of on Misty Firewatch. I'm convinced, conspiracy theory time, I'm convinced that Misty's going to try to fucking burn the compound down. Don't blink at me like that.
Wow.
Number one, you can totally see her doing it.
I just don't know why, like what.
Oh, well, the only reason I say that is because when she has to relinquish her phone, she's like, what about emergencies? It's like, what if there's like a fire? And just, she's got those cute, crazy eyes. So maybe I'm just reading into it too much, but I'm like, I could definitely see Misty setting this place on fire. So
Sure.
There's no ground for me to think that. I just really believe it in my heart.
We should move back to Lottie just for a second. Speaking
go ahead.
of the compound, if only for the fact that like everything that we thought about Lottie was kind of confirmed, not confirmed, but like debunked this episode when we're like, surely Lottie, like they know Lottie's out there, and surely they like are clearly like, where is Lottie in this comment? They knew nothing about Lottie.
Every person.
Like not a single one of these adult characters like kept track of their friend Lottie, who I guess, so like what impact does the 96 timeline have? Like I don't think she was the queen of anything. I'm not convinced that she's an antler queen if they just stopped, unless they just that's why they kind of shut her out. I have no idea. But the fact that we learned that they thought she was just institutionalized this whole time, very, very interesting. And like, I don't, what is going on there? Like, why would they lose track of her? Not that you have to, but I feel like if your friend was out there running a cult, how do they not know?
How do you miss
How
that?
does no one like kind of get any inklings there? You know,
Yeah.
What is she really doing then?
Right.
That she hasn't reached out to them. Like what? So maybe it really is a wellness center. You know, maybe she hasn't been thinking about the wilderness.
Yeah.
Maybe it has nothing to do. You know,
Right. Maybe she was just so traumatized and like wild after coming out of the woods after their rescue that it made sense that if she was institutionalized and they hadn't heard from her, that she would just still be institutionalized. But how fucking crazy does Lottie have to get for that to ring as truth? I'm also wondering, I don't think consciously Lottie maybe thinks that her wellness camp is tied to the wilderness at all, but I think subconsciously she does.
okay.
Or like whatever we keep saying, like it's in us, we brought it back with us.
But that's the thing is like, now I'm wondering is like, we saw her like, you know, cut her hand and like sacrifice some blood to the wilderness like 3 weeks ago or whatever. And we're like, what? So did she bring back anything from the wilderness? Is it supposed to look like the wilderness for any reason? It's like, no, it's just a place out for rich people to go, you know, like it's the middle of nowhere, some land, and has no connection, I don't think, to what, well, until we see the symbol at the very end, right? So there's something, so that does, I'm confused, you know, like, is it connected or is it not connected? Like, what is she doing? Why is she not, like, it is really kind of confusing. So I'm wondering, like,
where are we going with this?
if Lottie does kind of know what's going on, but then every time we see her and something happens, she seems just as confused as everyone else.
The rest of us.
She's like, this doesn't happen in like 25 years. I haven't had any like visions or whatever. And now it's all just kind of happening again. And like, what is, you know, it was like, well, you brought this, of course, if that symbol still, so they never figure out what that symbol means, maybe, because if she's still using it for protection, then I don't know. It's just so confusing to me.
I don't
like,
know.
what are we doing?
I do like the idea of it though, maybe being subconscious. I was looking, number one, I didn't even recognize the symbol at first. Mattias, you were like, wow, that took you like 7 full seconds before I was like, oh, it's a symbol, which is fine. But I was really admiring how clever the placement of the imagery is, because the longest line through it is like the main pathway. And, you know, the amphitheater is a circle, like everything, all the shapes make sense and you don't see it until you see it. So I can definitely see, if Lottie is to be believed as a reliable narrator, if she is doing this subconsciously, sort of the way that Tai sleepwalks. It's like there's all of that energy in them just generating again. We could even argue that maybe that darkness in them, like that's why it's bubbling up in Nat, and that's why she was partying and thought about committing suicide. It's bubbling up in Shauna, and that's why she had the affair and killed a guy. Like it's all just coming back up 25 years later for who knows what reasons. But
Sure. I mean, it doesn't seem like we're ever going to figure that out.
no,
So,
which is kind of a bummer. And then we just get to spend a little bit more time with Misty. She's not really vibing with the drumming and crying circle until she realizes she can get attention from other people for knowing Nat and Lottie. And then she comes alive. She's a totally different
because
person.
she likes having friends.
Yeah.
Because they're her friends, and that makes her like important because they're important.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same old Misty. Hasn't really changed much. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it on adult Misty. Anything else for you? Or we can move on. All right. Well, since we're at the compound, let's hit Nat. You brought something up that I didn't think about. We see that Nat can't shoot anymore. She can't even aim at a pyramid of cans here. And you said the gun might be from Lottie's. Was that the same gun from Lottie's cabinet?
Yeah, I mean, where did she get that gun? And did she sneak in and get that? Like, we focused on the gun last time in the locked compartment or whatever in the vault. And we focused on it quite a long time. And then if this is the same gun, it's just no fanfare. It's just she has a gun. Seems very dangerous to have on this in this compound with mental health and stuff like that. Of course, I guess she's lucky that Lisa's the one that finds her and not anyone else, you know? So,
but also, like, no one else hears those gunshots. That's funny to me.
Yeah, I'm like surprised Lottie didn't just show up.
Yeah.
Just not, I mean, she's, you know, she's going through some things after having seen and knowing that she possibly killed her best friend in her own words.
Yeah. I wrote that
so
down.
I don't think like her not being able to shoot. I don't know that we ever had evidence that she could shoot very well before. She did kind of miss that moose,
you're right.
like point blank. I do remember them like practicing and her being a better shot than everyone else, which is why she can go hunting. But you know, in the heat of the moment, clearly hers is if she's not focused and it's a mental game,
right?
Then she's not going to do so well behind the guy, which, and you know, can happen to anyone, I suppose.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, again, just to what you said, a quote from her is that, quote, "I killed my best friend, the only person I loved, the only person who knew me." And since I keep saying like acceptance and rejection is a huge theme in our Yellowjackets universe, I guess we really see why Nat has been crumbling. For you to out loud acknowledge and carry the weight of I killed my best friend and to feel responsible for that, I think it's really nice that Lisa's there in that moment to try to hold space for her and show her that, you know, it's not anyone else's responsibility when things like this happen, or because Travis died, or if someone commits suicide. Like, it's not your fault that it's in you already. And that's when she references again the darkness. Like, it's in me too. Like, we brought it here. It's in all of us. And now she has to reckon with, I think, what that means for her. So I'm interested to see Nat continue growing with Lisa. I think Lisa's really hitting a soft part in her and encouraging her to break down walls that she probably hasn't thought about in years, maybe decades, that she has. So when Lisa brings her goldfish and is like, hey, I'm worried about you, and you need to be responsible for something that's not you. You need to be responsible for something that doesn't carry like the sins of the past. Because if you don't think you deserve, or that you love, or that you need, then you're not going to take care of yourself. But this fish didn't do anything, and it just keeps you motivated. And Nat tries to kill the fish. Just, yeah. And then after that, she snaps and like puts on all the purple and is like seems to be drinking the Kool-Aid again. And I'm just wondering, like, did Lisa finally get through to her? Or is she still like up to something, or think Lottie's doing something weird? I just don't see Nat going from all this is bullshit, I don't care about anything, to like integrating with the group. Cat.
I maybe it's just the fact that like now that she doesn't believe that Lottie's up to something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she realizes, well, Lottie wasn't hiding it. Like, because she was out here thinking, like, what camp are you kind of running? What is going on here? You're conning a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Lottie seems very genuine in everything that she's done, and she helped Nat to like look into her past and see what happened, you know, and maybe she wasn't as unreliable a narrator, and like what happened with at the very least, like initially what happened with Javi.
Yeah.
Not Javi.
Travis.
And so there was you know, I think she's probably still responsible for what eventually happened, but you know, and maybe left out some details, but you know, it does seem like Lottie's trying to help people and help Nat. And then as with these things, they take time, and it takes, you know, you lash out, you go through denial, you go through like frustrations and conflict within yourself to like fight it, you know, and eventually like healing it comes through the end of that, if that's what you're looking for. So I think that's just deciding that's what she might be looking for after all these years, you know? And I think Lottie or Lisa or someone's helped a little bit. Yeah. So I don't know.
Aw. Yeah, I like that. And that sums up Nat. You got anything else?
Mm-mm.
All right. Last but not least, let's move on to Ty Van. We have Shauna too, but all right. So again, adult Ty is not as interesting to me as child Ty for whatever reason. Probably because it's just been like the same thing.
They just keep backtracking with her. Like when we last left them, she's like, we don't belong here. And then you walked out. And so like, you feel like, okay, so they're going to wake up having like Van having had to drive all night or something. And then they're going to be at the compound already. No, we backtrack, and they really went to sleep. And then they had a conversation about what did they want. And then I guess we do learn what we already learned, which was she's overdue on her bills, Van is, you know, and then, you know, but now Taissa knows. And I guess the whole thing is supposed to be this chemistry of like, are they maybe going to get back together? Are they not kind of thing? And I think it's supposed to be that, because even every time someone sees them, it's like, oh, I didn't know y'all were hanging out. Oh, you are both together. That's the reaction everyone else is getting. And I feel like we're supposed to be like, in the same way, like we feel about Misty and Walter, we're supposed to feel that with Van and Taissa as an audience. And we're not getting that at all. So these characters have to spell it out for us because they need to react in a way that we're supposed to be reacting. You know?
I totally agree with that. So one of the notes I have at the very beginning, where Taissa's like, oh, you were talking to other me. What did she say? She's like, do you think I meant us, like us? And she's like, no, you're married. There can't be an us. Ty's like, okay, well, I guess I'll leave. And Van's like, just restock some VHS tapes. It's fine. And I want to like that, because I like watching relationships that have that like almost a little bit combative give and take, where it's like a little bit of a will they, won't they, or so it's nice to see like when Taissa says, oh, maybe I should go, she doesn't actually want to go. And Van is offering, even though she has her annoyance, it's like, here's the reason you would stay. You can do me the favor. So every conversation they have in this episode is verbally back and forth being like, we should be apart, but here's the reason why we're going to stay together in this. I don't think it's particularly strong relationship writing. Like I'm not like buying into it, which I think is what you said. Like people have to spell it out for us. But I like the concept. and I like adult Van, so I'm gonna give it a go. I'll give it a go. But something I did like after it took me 7 seconds to realize that the symbol is in the compound, that's Sleep Taissa leading Van to another symbol, just like in 96.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's not a big revelation. It's just what the fuck is that symbol then? And why is it so important that Van gets to it? Why do we keep bringing Van to that symbol? And or why does Sleep Taissa feel that they're responsible for bringing people to the symbol?
It's Taissa. Other Taissa's going to the symbol. The only reason she brings Van to the symbol every time is because Van is the only one that
like follows her,
talks to her, you know, like, and allows her to do things, I guess. Yeah. And so there's like, I guess, a kinship there, but like that leads me to believe is like, does this other Taissa know of the previous symbols or just any new symbol? You know, was this symbol here before or was it made by Lottie, and like why does it know? You know, like what is it? And if not the symbol, is it going to Lottie, and why Lottie? Like why? What is this?
Right.
What really?
What actually is happening, if anything? But yeah, so something I noticed, but doesn't necessarily make a big splash for me. Thought I would mention it. Last but not least, something. Can't tell if it bothered me or if it just was weird to see. The fact that no one thought Van wasn't going to stay. This woman drove across states to get Ty to upstate New York. I don't know. I just thought that was good. There's no way that she wasn't going to stay at some point. But also, how did Shauna beat them there?
Because the writer said so. That's all. That's the only answer. That's literally the only. It's because, yeah, they sat out there for too long. I don't know where they're coming from versus where, like, maybe.
Because Van's in Ohio.
Well, and they're in New York. So, yeah, Shauna could have beat them there.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I guess what I meant is, like, how did they beat Shauna there? Because they called her.
Well, they got there around the same time.
Yeah.
Like, Shauna's technically closer than if they're.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So
it felt weird to me. I was just like, oh, that's just they were sitting out here talking, and there needs to be a reason that they both drive in, and it's the fact that they see Shauna. But that's fine. But yeah, girl drove from Ohio to upstate New York for Taissa. Crazy. So why couldn't Taissa just drive herself? She didn't have a car? Was that the thing?
Well, yeah, she didn't. She stole her assistant's car, and then she hitchhiked with the truck driver.
You're like, rent a car. Also, who's watching her kid? Isn't her wife still in the hospital? This just occurred to me.
Good question. Did they never picked him up from school? He's still there. He's still at school.
And like the dog, right? The wife, we left the wife in the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope. There, and she's still waiting on that call from the hospital. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
and the kid is just perpetually in the principal's office.
Yep.
She's like, this is not a daycare.
Yeah. I guess so.
All right. Well, so that's Taissa in a van, I guess. So that leads us to Shauna, and we start to get more interesting, I think. So here's adult Shauna, but I like that one of the first things Shauna says in this episode is that her daughter should have fucked the cop because then
that would be better. I mean, they couldn't. It would not be better, Shauna.
Like,
it would not.
Fucking Shauna.
It would not be better.
Just no, it would not. It would not have been better. But Callie sure does take that to heart a little later when they're being interrogated by the police, and she pulls the Officer Siracusa. I was a virgin before him.
Yeah.
And she fucking stuck to her gun. She was like, who's the jury gonna believe, motherfucker?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Tell everyone how much you love Callie. All those people, all those Callie haters on TikTok. Go ahead, Shannon.
You know what? I, too, was a Callie hater. But sometimes all you got to do is tell a bitch the truth. You know, we're capable of carrying pretty heavy shit if people only trust us to hold it. And she has really grown on me since telling her that. Yeah, I really feel like she's part of the fucking team, and I'm happy to adopt her onto the team. She's also like kind of weird chaos energy. I love the fact
She kind
that
of
she
manipulated her way onto this, and now she's doing exactly what we thought she would do, which was be
like, she's into it. She's playing the game, and I will happily watch her play it. So, Callie, you got balls on you for telling a cop to fucking charge you because a jury would believe a gentle white girl over anything. I just thought that was hilarious. And also,
you think she's just enjoying
yes,
this side of her? Because I don't think she wants to protect her mom. I think she's just enjoying the not doing regular stuff. I don't know much about Callie beforehand, but
no.
I guess she just loves not being a goody two shoe kind of person.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like experiencing that darkness in you for the first time. Shauna even said, like, it's exciting. Like when you do something.
I don't know if this darkness is just, I guess, an edginess, you know?
An edginess that could lead to darkness.
Sure.
No, but I think so. I don't think she feels as combative with her mother anymore. I don't think that she's perfectly on Shauna's team.
I'm disappointed she doesn't go out of town with Shauna.
Right?
I feel like that was a missed opportunity to like for her to learn, like understand, like, oh wait, who are these people? Mm-hmm. Because they both have to get out of Dodge or whatever, you know?
Well,
so
yeah, I don't really love that Shauna just. I get why she has to, but I don't love the idea that Shauna just left unless it leads to what, maybe Jeff and Callie following her up there because the police are going to follow her up there. Like, there's no way she leaves immediately after an interview and they don't realize where she's gone and follow her up there. But I'm not really sure. But we got to also shout out Jeff for listening to Fuck the Police in the police parking lot. There is
a Spotify playlist for Jeff Sadecki. If you're curious and you're interested in like what are Jeff's musical tastes,
we'll link it.
The PR team, producer team, marketing team reached out, and I've noticed that there is a Spotify playlist just for him,
for Mr. Sadecki.
There's another Spotify playlist that they have for just in general, just for the show.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's a Jeff Sadecki Spotify playlist. For your listening pleasure.
Yeah.
If you're just curious, if you love that era, just like Jeff, and you want to sit in your car and was it Papa Roach?
Yeah.
and you screw, you know, go for it.
So good.
Be angsty Jeff Sadecki.
Yeah.
Do that for you this week.
Do that for you. Yeah, we'll definitely link that in the description or wherever you put your show notes, Mattias. But
it's Sadecki, right? Am I right? Yeah. Okay.
Jeff Sadecki. Also, just fuck Detective Siracusa. He's such a little bitch. I want to rip his mustache off. It's so annoying. Like, it's just his whole face. He's just, he's got a punchable face. They, that actor, good job with your punch. God, it just,
he feels like he's got something.
I just want to squish him. Yeah.
No close, how close he's walking. No idea how close he's walking to the sun. Like Icarus. He's going to get burned eventually.
All right. So here's the most important adult Shauna moment for me. I wrote down the whole quote because it gave me feelings. Ready? Story time. I never even wanted to be a mom. I did not start out a bad person. You have a kid that you don't want to save a marriage you got into out of guilt and shame, and you can't really let yourself love either of them. But you do. You love them despite yourself. For a quick moment, I was concerned that she was acting. That Shauna was playing her cards with as much truth as she felt comfortable sprinkling in to manipulate the situation.
Okay.
I do think she's being so honest in that moment. I think maybe she started off with this is how you're going to present the fact that you did have an affair with this guy to a police officer. I do think that it can be methodical like that. But I think when she started talking, when she really started saying it, I think that truth came out in her. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I feel like I just saw something in Melanie Lynskey's eyes switch over as her character, as Shauna, stopped saying what she rehearsed she was going to say and really was feeling what she was saying. I just really like that part. And I think it's so sad, especially when we see what happens to her in 96. It's like you're doing things not for you or because you want them or because you think you deserve them. You just kind of fall into these situations out of all these like heavy, dark feelings, and you're just left to pick up the pieces of whatever that leaves you.
We're seeing 2 episodes in a row now where Shauna has been seeing, maybe even more, but Shauna's been seeing the benefit of telling the whole truth of everything and just letting it all out there. She's like, you know what? I'm just going to tell Callie everything. And not like, she doesn't want to play games anymore, right? Obviously, she's not going to say anything to incriminate herself because she doesn't want to go to jail. But she knows that there's no point in lying about something that they probably already know or they're going to find out. And possibly Callie might let slip. Who knows who will let it slip? Jeff might let it slip, you know? It's too dangerous. And the best way to get out of the other situation that she's going to be in is to just tell the truth about what they do know. You know, she doesn't have to be as dramatic about it, I suppose, but that is something that I think comes directly from her heart, from her, in terms of like, she's just fucking tired of it. We already know what, like, she's getting a taste of like who she could be if she just became herself and just stopped pretending and stopped going, you know, it goes all the way back to like the secrecy that she held with Jackie and Jeff early on. You know, she's always been hiding these things, you know, and she's just done doing it, especially for people who don't matter, you know, to her. Yeah. So I'm curious to see where this new Shauna goes. I think it's very interesting. I think it's going to be a amazing clash with the rest of the group. But I mean, why not? Like, if you're going to be the person, the same thing with like Misty. If you are that person, just be that person, you know?
And it's so satisfying to watch characters admit hard truths about themselves, because I'm sure like everyone can understand this. You do lie to yourself sometimes. Like, you don't let yourself feel things or acknowledge that you're feeling things because your thinking brain takes over, your rational brain, and the part of you that tries to stay safe and keep the status quo. And we got to see 2 characters just in this episode admit, I think, really like deep, honest truths that Nat is carrying around the weight of feeling guilty for killing the only person that knew and loved her for every bit of weird, dark goodness in her. And we get to see Shauna admit that she has people that love her and she doesn't even really want them. And it made me tear up a little bit. I really liked that. I like watching characters wrestle with really uncomfortable truths, and hearing Shauna say that, I'm so floored. I hope she keeps just saying the hard shit, because
I'm just curious now, well, then what does she want? You know? Yeah. If not this life, what does she ultimately want to accomplish and do? You know? It's not like she doesn't love Jeff. It's not like she doesn't love Callie.
Right.
You know? I think those things are true, and I think what she said is also true at the time that they fucking got married when they were like 18, 20? 19, you know, like it's, it all makes sense for someone like, that's the thing, is like, this makes sense for anyone in that like kind of with that time frame of 25 years of marriage and 1 kid and like, and the state that she was in terms of the circumstance of their life, you know, and just kind of where she was going through the motions. It makes sense for anyone at that time. Yeah. I don't want to say if that person of that age, because it can happen at any age, you know, but it does, that what she says could just come from anyone in a normal circumstance like hers. But then she has the added stuff that we're seeing in the past, and we're seeing from what happened to them out there. That's just I think, driving that even more.
Yeah.
You know?
Because when I think about it further, which is happening just now, I was not planning to talk about this, but marrying Jeff out of shame and guilt leads me to believe that her fling with Jeff in the first place wasn't any more important to her than just like Jackie had it. And she felt like she was saying in present day that it was exciting to feel wanted and to feel like you had a little bit of that power. And then Jackie dies. I think Jeff, and I hope I'm not wrong, but Jeff seems to be like very much on Shauna's team. I think Jeff cares about Shauna, loves Shauna, and I think that young Shauna rationalized, like, he knows me. He was my best friend's partner. She don't like, there's so much there that settling doesn't feel so bad.
It's okay. No. Wasn't there something in that monologue about them having to stay together because of the kid or something, because of Callie?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't have that part written down.
Did I miss that part? But then she would be too young again for that. So like, no, they would have had to. Depends on when they actually got married, I suppose. But she felt some sort of obligation to stay for some reason.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, probably obligation to stay because of Callie, but initially into it because of the guilt and shame that she carried from Jackie, and the fact that, all things considered, if they all would have been just normal teens and gone on to college or lives or jobs, that Shauna probably wouldn't have chosen to stay with Jeff had all of that not happened, had Jackie not died. So already that sets you up. And then
had anything not happened, like any number of things, it's always going to be a what if thing, And
like the idea of like maybe not wanting children, especially after the very traumatizing thing that we see happen to her in 96. Like all of that makes so much sense. And to hear that she's still carrying it around so heavily 25 years later, it doesn't seem like she's ever vocalized or looked at these feelings. She's just stuffed them down in her little housewife box with her husband and kid and like middle class home. And yeah, I really hope, similar to Nat, like I hope these are walls that are being reconfigured and defense mechanisms that you put up years ago that you're able to look at with a different light and a different amount of empathy for yourself. And we're going to see growth through these adult characters. I'm hoping the wilderness doesn't continue to just terrorize them.
I just hope this is something that's kind of been, I guess, threatened since the very beginning of the season, that these things would start happening with these characters, that we're seeing the change, even with the first season. Like, we saw them all, or one person, we saw Shauna kill someone, and then all of them, like, cover it up, I feel like the walls are starting to break there, and we're taking, like, halfway through this season to kind of get back to that. Yeah. Which is kind of, again, just the annoying thing. I hope, I feel like we've introduced this, and we're probably not going to get back to it until maybe season 3 or at the end of the season. And that's really, really frustrating because I don't want, this is what we want.
Right.
But,
yes.
Okay. That's all to say there.
I'm with you.
Sure.
All right. So that's my hot take on adult Shauna. Do you have anything extra?
Nope.
All right. Well, let's hop into what I consider to be the actual meat of this episode. We're going to follow the 96 timeline through the birth of Shauna's child. And we will be talking about sensitive subjects. And that is your cue that if you are uncomfortable with that, do not listen. But trigger warning for
placenta.
Stillbirths and miscarriages and gory pregnancies.
Can I leave?
Yes, you're excused.
Don't
get down.
It's just talking about women and birth. It's just so uncomfortable for me. I don't know why.
And on that note, Coach Ben is fucking useless yet again. For the 5th consecutive episode, Coach Ben does fucking nothing. And I do hope he gets eaten.
Just press play on the, come on, you've seen it so many times. You have it memorized. There's no way you don't have these things in your head.
Also, even if you're not a grown-ass man, you are a legal adult. I just...
Not even trying.
You're not even trying. You're not even putting effort in.
Here's what we're starting to
Come
understand.
on.
Ben is doing this thing where even the things that we thought were flashbacks, I'm starting to wonder if they were flashbacks. He has been constantly just looking at his life and what he feels like it should have been. He's escaping in ways that other people are doing the same way. He's just doing it as an adult. And especially in the way that, like, if they were that age, it would feel that same. Like, I think it's a difference between where he's at and lost everything, where they're at, still have everything, their whole lives to live, you know? And I think it's very much a person of that age, like, his only way of, like, coping, and I think it's sad and pathetic, and he needs to get his self fucking together, but the only way he's coping right now is to basically not be there in his mind. He is imagining another life, you know? So he doesn't want to deal with this baby. So I get that, and we're seeing that. And we're seeing that in his little vision where they are colliding, right? Like, he is imagining himself in his apartment with his loving person, having a nice couples charade party, but the cabin is there. You know, the cabin is into that. You know, he can't escape because it's just so much, you know, the noise and whatever. It's like too real, you know, so he can't escape the cabin. Why? I don't know. Like, why are we being shown it and who cares? You know, like, to me, it's like, this is the kind of stuff where it's like, you can victim yourself over and over and over again. I feel like in shows, I get tired of that. Like, we gotta see you make some sort of progression, something, do anything.
Mari is already a more complex character than Coach Ben.
For sure. You know,
come on.
They're all victims there. They all have their own ways of, like, dealing with it, but we're seeing more progression with those characters and like dealing with it, confronting it, conflicting with other characters. He's just not doing anything. Right. You know, and the one time, like, it could come to, like, whatever, it's like, yeah, of course. So we're showing that he's still incapable of doing it. So why is he there?
But why are you here? So we can eat you. That's it. You're like, period. The one last thing about Coach Ben I want to bring up is
I'm afraid that he's still alive in present day. I'm afraid that he's still alive. I'm afraid that he's still alive, and that people, they're going to eventually have to, like, seek him out, and we're going to realize, like, how much he screwed up in the 96 timeline by not doing anything, and how that basically that affected his career, his individual prospects, anything that he wanted to do in life, like, because it follows, you know, and especially the way that the girls view him in their adult life. Like, so that's what I'm afraid of. And I don't want to see that, because I'd rather see him die, because that's that's a fate worse than death, is the fact that, like, knowing that you did absolutely nothing and didn't even try. Right. I need him to do something. Yeah.
He's overstayed his welcome with, like, this current energy. We do get to see him wear the antlers this episode. It's the first time we see Coach Ben haloed by antlers. And I'm wondering,
in the flashback,
in his, like, daydream hallucination or whatever, he wears the antlers.
The antlers are behind him on the mantelpiece. Yeah. And they're behind him. Yeah.
And I'm wondering if maybe we have the Antler Queen concept wrong, and the Antler
Queen. All the Antler Queen?
Well, maybe.
We're all the Antler Queen.
Hashtag we're all the Antler Queen. I'm going to make merch. That, like, the Antler Queen is in all of us when that darkness takes root or something. So that's why we're going to see the antlers be passed around to all the different people as it, like, infiltrates them, maybe. I don't really have much more to say about that. I didn't flesh out that theory, but that I'm thinking about it.
That goes against the supernatural theory. You know, so, like, if you believe that there is something out there is something supernatural and all those kinds of things, to say that, like, oh no, it's all just within us and again, to me, that just strikes it as coincidence. This is what just the things, they're just showing symbolism in what takes hold of us when we're in these kinds of situations as human beings. And it's all just kind of coincidence and metaphor and, you know, analogy for, like, this kind of thing. And the Antler Queen being part of that, again, holds more to my theory that none of the supernatural stuff is real. It could all be explained.
Yeah, absolutely, which is fun that everything can be explained both ways. But I was more thinking like Lottie keeps referring to it with a capital I. She's like, we brought it back in the captions. So that's what I more mean. It's like whatever it is that's in them that seeped into them while they were in the wilderness that they brought back with him, I think maybe is symbolized by the antlers. I don't know. Just something to think about. Get in the comments. That's all I have to say about Coach Ben because he's dumb. Okay, so let's talk about Misty freezing and not being able to perform.
Well, I mean, she's going through a lot with the crystal death thing, so I don't know if there's too much more than what's on the surface there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just at first I didn't realize because I thought that she would shine under the opportunity to again kind of come in and save the day, like when she broke the black box and was like, oh, this is how we're going to do this. So seeing her freeze, especially you saw the break hardest when she had blood on her hands and then they flashed to Crystal and I'm like, oh, it's because she literally has blood on her hands and like she's missing.
It was less than like an hour ago that kind of happened.
Right.
It was like maybe a couple of hours ago, so that
it's very
kind of makes sense. Yeah, that's
absolutely. And I didn't realize that although I should have, they're both nerds, but that they had a plan together, that they were going to help bring this baby into the world together. They had a song to sing. And what a bummer for Misty that she had to kill apparently one of the only people that was as weird and as excited as she is.
Allegedly. She didn't do anything. She didn't kill anyone. Crystal walked off that cliff all by herself. I'm just saying, she didn't push her.
That's true.
Shannon.
You're not wrong.
And so
she did say I'm gonna fucking kill you.
There is definitely a loss there, and can it still be attributed to being her fault? I don't know, Shannon. Are you gonna victim blame someone for I don't. So yeah, it's just of note. It makes sense.
Misty's cracking because she's dealing with some shit, and that's why she freezes.
And she gets through it. She manages to, I guess, deliver this baby.
She pushes her glasses
What does
on.
anyone? How is a doctor really that important in the operating room?
I mean, women
is
have
it
been
really
giving birth for centuries,
is
millennia.
It it's just up to the mother.
Yeah,
it's how well they do. Like who really did any work?
Oh
there?
My god. So just touching on what the other 96ers are doing while Shauna's trying to squeeze this child out of her body. Ty is her right hand man, period. She's literally on the right side of Shauna's body. She's the one that's there to keep her focused, keep her supported. She's the one that deflects Lottie. She's like, girl, like, I know you're trying to help. You got to give her some fucking space right now because this is
Lottie's annoying me.
This is not the time.
Yeah, that's the worst time to be doing it.
She's
hey. You can't. Come on, Lottie. You cannot be that
Lottie,
stupid.
read the fucking room. Jesus Christ. So Ty's her right hand man. Lottie's doing her weird shit, which I think
and again,
tracks.
Lottie's shit. She's like, this baby's gonna change everything. Might still be true. Might still change everything. But and she was right that it was a boy. But really, what was her thing? Like, her stuff is not coming true. Like, more often than not, her visions or things do not line up with what we think they're going to be. So just notice that Lottie's shit, we shouldn't be trusting her as much as they are. Because they do not come to pass,
What else? What are you thinking of anything specifically? Because my brain is blank right now.
I mean, the visions are vague. So she had the vision of Laura Lee going off and saving them and exploded. She did see something of this is what it really meant, but why, what, was that a warning then for her to stop it? I guess, I don't know. And then, what is this where she thought she's always like, no, things are gonna work out, or someone's alive. So like Javi, yeah, he is alive, you know, and that's like the one thing.
Yeah.
Right. But then everything she says about the baby doesn't necessarily come true. It's all monkey paw stuff, right?
Kind of vague,
be careful what you wish for, because like if you don't say it exactly, it's gonna come to true, but it's not gonna come true in the way that you think. You know, and I just, you know, if Lottie is just a giant monkey paw, then I'm still staying away from it. Whether it's like only half truths, like it doesn't matter. It's like if you're not right, if you're not 100%, then I don't want to hear it.
Right. Well, we see most of the Yellowjackets are with Lottie trying to like offer what measly sacrifices they can to try to help Shauna pull through with this kid.
And it doesn't work.
And we even see Ty put her little like talisman in Shauna's hand and start chanting as well. Which Shauna, even in her like fucked up state, is like, I do not want to be a part of whatever the fuck this is. And
you think it's her fault that baby's dead?
Let's preface that with that is never ever the answer to like why miscarriages happen. But in
in terms of
in
like
the realm of the show, if it is a supernatural
because she
thing,
did this. Remember we talked about the blood spilling on the symbol and it being the abdomen. And
you could argue that the thing didn't work because she doesn't believe.
I just hate it.
I would honestly also hate it. It obviously makes a ton of sense that a child would not survive the types of trauma and conditions Shauna's been dealing with for 9 months.
As a person who came from like church and like grew up, like it's like, oh, the amount of like, oh, it's because you didn't believe enough. Like, give me a fucking break. Like, that's not how like supernatural stuff works. Like that can't. That I hate that kind of stuff, you know. And if that turns out to be the answer, I don't like it.
Yeah, if that's where they end up going with it, I just don't think that would make sense. I think they treated this stillbirth with a very thoughtful lens, and for them to turn around and then be like, just kidding, it was Shauna's fault all along, even within the confines of the story, still kind of shits on like what miscarriages do to a person.
Like, that's some soft magic shit of like, well, how do you measure that, right? Like who's measuring like how much someone believes? Yeah, you know. And then like everyone else in that fucking cabin is apparently believing in it. And just because it's one person, you know, like what exactly is it? Right. You know, and
so that's that little beat. Last question about Lottie. When Travis cuts his hand to make the blood sacrifice and she wraps his hand and she says, "The wilderness recognizes your sacrifice and so do I." And then we spend 4.5 seconds just on Lottie's face.
Okay.
Why? What does that mean? That Lottie recognizes Travis's sacrifice?
No, that the wilderness does.
Well, yeah, she says the wilderness recognizes your sacrifice,
speaking for the
and
wilderness,
so do I.
which I don't know where she got that power from.
Yeah. Surrogate wilderness here. I mean,
lingering on a person is like performance or whatever. It didn't reveal anything. It wasn't like a insert or anything like that. Like that could just be like performance. Like, let's stay on her for a little bit. Like, that's just what happens. I don't know that there could be any reason other than that because it was like a intense moment.
Yeah, because usually when we linger, I'm like, okay, something about what this person is saying non-verbally is important if we spend time with them. But I couldn't see, I'm like, I don't know. That just didn't make sense to me. So I wrote it down with a question mark. Because,
well, if I had any information, if the show had given me anything the past 5 episodes, Shannon, then I would give it to you. But they don't want to give me to you. So.
All right. So Shauna is mere pushes away from delivering first placenta, then child, unfortunately. And Misty says, "You're so close to being on the other side, and then you get to meet your baby." And I absolutely do believe that Shauna like died or had a near-death experience. And that was every scene that we see with her and her child. She's living her worst fears in that state of like feeling guilty because she didn't originally want the baby, feeling like a failure because she can't get the kid to latch, being terrified of the people that she's sharing this cabin with because we see them eat the baby. Like, these are all fears, and Lottie doing weird shit. So she's living all of her worst fears about having a kid. And I definitely think that's what happens. And Misty alludes to it when she's like, you're almost on the other side. And then you get to meet your kid. Like, the kid's dead. Shauna almost died.
Right.
And
I'm
dark.
a little disappointed with this kid dying because they, like, introducing it feels like a major thing, and it feels like such a weird thing to just be like, introduce it, we go through the thing, and then she has to have the baby, and we know it's coming because we said it, and then now it's gone. So, like, I don't know if anything's gonna, like, what they're gonna do with this thing with Shauna. Like, obviously Shauna's kind of fine 25 years later. I mean, in a way, I'm not saying she's fine, but in terms of the way that she handled this, she's not completely traumatized of losing a kid in, you know, out in the wilderness. I feel like it would have been more traumatizing had she had the kid and not been able to take care of it and all these kinds of things, and then it had to, you know, like, to me, there's a part, it like, it feels like if you're going to introduce something, like, and then you just take it away, it's like, oh, well, that never happened. Now it feels like a cop out, you know? And so I'm a little disappointed in that terms of. I
think there's a place to go. I think the kid is a sacrifice still.
No.
I think, I'm sorry.
So for what?
The kid, for the wilderness.
What does sacrifice mean in this? Like, you know what I'm saying?
not sure, but like the way Lottie's like, you offer sacrifice and you spill blood, you give pieces of yourself. Like, this seems like an ultimate type of sacrifice. You know, Shauna didn't probably want to lose a child, and I can't imagine how traumatizing losing a child is. I have friends who have had miscarriages, and I can't imagine carrying a child for 9 months, even under those conditions, and not getting to meet that little person. But if we do look at the weird shit the wilderness does, she's going to have to bury this child, and that might bring light to what Lottie's saying about, you know, this person is really important. This person is going to change things for us. I think it could come to play in the sense of, like, lost life for the wilderness.
I guess we can only see. I don't know.
I'm not saying I love it. I just, that would be the only other, because you know this, I don't like when we kill girlfriends as a plot point. It's like we introduce a girlfriend only to kill her to motivate often a male main character. And I don't really like when we do that with children either. Children are also something that we introduce as ways to, like, influence or poke our main character. So I'm hoping that this child isn't just serving as, like, here's Shauna's trauma, but it kind of is starting to feel like that. That's what I'm saying, is, like,
it just feels like something, like, they introduced it and then it just becomes this, that what you just said, but not anything else, or like something that can easily be forgotten. You know, it doesn't, like, I don't see the point of having, like, had this be in the background if it was only going to come to this, you know?
Yeah.
So I hopefully it does mean something more, not to, like, diminish
the death of a child.
A stillborn child is very, very, very traumatic. Just feels like at the end of the day, like, when we see them in the future and stuff like that, this has little bearing on what the character is going through. And so therefore I'm not exactly sure what kind of bearing it's going to have beyond the immediate.
Right.
You know, clearly she's traumatized. Clearly she's going through some things. I am glad that it was all dream sequence stuff as opposed to what I thought it was, which I thought she was jacking the whole situation where it was already dead and they already knew it, but they introduced it like she believed it was alive, and then they continued to play the game for as long as she was dealing with this trauma of, like, trying to get it to latch and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. I thought that's what was going on. I was like, this is literally a dead baby. Yeah. I was so worried that it was the same thing with Jackie and her dead body. I'm honestly glad it wasn't that.
Because that would have been, like, really interesting and dark, though.
I thought that's terrifying. I thought that's why they introduced that, but I mean, who knows? Who knows why?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, still sad times. Just I feel like I had something else I was gonna say, but I can't remember. I mean, it's still sad. It's not that's not traumatizing. She's clearly dealing with it a lot.
We're not saying that it's not traumatizing.
And
we're
she
just
still
talking
wants
about
to. She still hears it. You know, she's still in her own so maybe we're still gonna get a little bit. Okay, here's what I was gonna say. We don't know what happens to the baby now, so I guess you could still eat the baby. But I'm actually more worried about that mouse getting eaten. Is what I think is gonna happen. So
I don't think it was.
I think that mouse is gonna get eaten because otherwise, why again do we keep cutting to the mouse? You know, so they're gonna find out about that mouse, and someone's gonna want to eat it.
I think that mouse has something to do with the plot. I don't think they're gonna eat it because it's this big. Only one person. Maybe she'll go crazy and she'll eat it. I do think that mouse has something to do with something because, like we were talking about a couple episodes ago, like they haven't seen life. They haven't seen other people. They haven't seen other animals. Like they just saw the white moose and the birds that Lottie made fall from the fucking sky, and now this mouse. So I think finding life is an indicator on this show. I just don't understand like how or why yet. I also love that. Oh fuck! What's her name? Is it Crystal? No,
Crystal's dead.
No, I know. I'm sorry. Misty's other friend, the girl that has the mouse in her pocket. What is her fucking name?
Can't remember.
Okay, whatever. I like that she don't chew on that cord, Kitty Cat. I like that she's like, we got to keep things sterile. We should boil some water. And then right before she sticks a hand on Shauna's hoo-ha, she pets the mouse in her pocket. I'm like, do not put your mouse hands on my cooch, ma'am. Please. Don't laugh.
This has been Health Class with Shannon Riley.
I know more than Coach Ben does because he's fucking useless.
Okay, we've been talking a long time about this show.
Have we?
I don't know.
Oh. We started late, don't forget.
Here's how I want to conclude because I loved season 1.
Okay.
I thought season 2 was going to be better, for lack of better words.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I'm not hate watching this show. I know it sounds like I am. But I just am frustrated, super frustrated because I feel like what they set up with season 1 has flatlined in season 2. And the fact that we're so close, we have 3 episodes, 3 episodes left to get to the end of season 2. That's not a lot of time to to win me back. You know, some good things have happened, but as we said, some of these scenes have been like stretched out over the entire episode and could have been like a single scene. Like this is just not been the best time. So I'm curious to see where all this is going, but I don't have high hopes is what I'm saying. I don't have high hopes for any of the things that we talked about, like coming to fruition. Yeah. Every time they try to introduce something, it never ends up being what we think it's going to be. And then what we are interested in always just kind of gets glossed over and like explained and then nothing. Right. You know, so.
The thing that keeps me anchored to this show and willing to take the ride is really the 96 girls. I think that all the actors have incredible talent, number one. I don't know the actress's name. I'm so sorry, but the actress that plays young Shauna nailed like a birthing scene. So much integrity and intention. I thought it was a really powerful performance, and you can see clearly that her friends around her are reacting to the vulnerability that she's bringing to the table in that role. I love watching the younger cast. I think they have a great chemistry. I think they all have like really good online personas too. I've started following some of them on TikTok and Instagram, and it's like I really want to root for this show and I want to like it. But yeah, this season has been a little disappointing, and 3 episodes to be good again doesn't really warrant the other 6 episodes. Like if I'm going to watch a season where only 3 of the episodes are good, it's like, what are you doing with the other?
And it doesn't feel like a slow burn kind of thing where it all kind of comes together at the end. Right. Because that would assume that some interesting things are still happening. Damn. in the interim.
Fuck, Mattias.
What do you tell me I'm wrong?
You're not wrong, baby. Damn. So yeah, that's our hot take on Yellowjackets season 6. Nope.
Yeah, next week, and I didn't. Episode 6. In our anticipation for next episode, I don't remember much from the trailer. I think I just zoned out both times that we watched it because I'm just like, I don't care. Like, you're showing me things that like make me think something is going to happen, and then none of that actually happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're all together. I
forgot that the trailer, that we even watched the trailer the first time. That's why I looked it up the second time, because I was like,
Sure.
I didn't see the trailer. The only thing I remember from that little snippet is Shauna screaming and Shauna burying the kid. And that's it. That's all I remember. So we're going to see some shouting.
I just know that they're all together and
they're all
Misty's
together.
up to something, and as usual, like, I don't know, like, what is are they actually going to reveal anything? That's what I want to know. That's
or is it going to be another filler episode?
Let's get some answers about what's going on with Lottie and the whole thing. Let them actually stop talking in riddles.
Right.
And Shauna, say what the fuck is going on.
Right. Just say what's up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our discussion.
Yes.
And we will be back next week to talk about this. But in the meantime, you can follow us on social media. All the links are in the description below and wherever you get podcasts. I want to say, if you are interested in, if you have thoughts or questions or anything that you want to talk about, please email us at codependentcontent@gmail.com. More importantly, go find this podcast on YouTube. I know we've pushed Spotify before. I know a lot of you on Spotify. I think that since YouTube is starting to get more into podcasts and trying to integrate podcasts into their already built out system, I like the comment system on YouTube much, much better, because it allows you to like timestamp some things. It allows you to like respond to things individually. Emails don't really give you the chance to do that. And Spotify doesn't give you that interaction.
At all.
There's better engagement on YouTube. I encourage everyone to go to YouTube for this and to engage with us, because I very much want to push that and hopefully utilize it in the future. Because I think the comment system, with all of its problems in certain aspects, is a good way to interact with us, you know?
Yeah.
So definitely go to YouTube, watch that. If you want other ways to engage with us, though, we do have a Discord. We do record this live. We're streaming this live on Discord as we speak.
Woo.
And you can always watch us live. You can always engage in the chat. We try and stay and do a Q&A afterwards, or just talk to some people.
Yeah, we just
so
chitty
you are
chat.
always free to come and hang out. And if you disagree with us, like, come tell us how much you do, because I would rather have that than anything else. And we have other ways that you can jump in and hang out with us. Discord's my favorite place to be, and I'm always trying to make it a great place for creators and world builders and people who just want a place to have community. So come do
on
that.
over.
And the link will be there as well. So yeah, Shannon, I'm assuming you're okay with trying this again, going out next week.
Yeah, I'll hate watch Yellowjackets with you next week.
Okay. See you on Friday, and then see you guys next Monday.